My name is Abraham King, commonly known as King A, and I have been an underground rapper for the past 10 years now, but during my near-death experience, I saw the faces of people I recognized, some of the most famous American rappers of our time. Their expressions were frozen in pain, regret, and despair as they cried out in anguish. I realized that their fame and fortune, which once made them untouchable in life, had no meaning in this place. As I stood there, I couldn't help but ask myself, how did they end up here? These were people who had achieved what so many dream of: money, power, and influence. But as I looked closer, the answer became painfully clear. Their lives and careers were centered around glorifying sin, often in the name of entertainment. It was a devastating realization that their choices, both personal and professional, had led them down this path. I could hear their cries as they begged for forgiveness and pleaded for another chance to make things right. Their regret was palpable. It wasn't just about their own suffering, but also about the harm they knew they had caused. They talked about their music and how it had influenced millions of people, especially young minds. I could feel the weight of their regret as they recounted the lives they had unknowingly steered away from the truth. It was as though they were reliving every decision, every lyric, and every moment that led to this eternal consequence. One of them, a rapper I recognized instantly, turned to me and said, "We didn't know the impact we were having. We thought it was just music." His voice cracked with sorrow, and I could see the tears streaming down his face. He spoke about how his songs glorified a lifestyle of violence, drugs, and promiscuity, thinking it was harmless entertainment. But now, he understood the ripple effect his words had on others, leading them to embrace the same destructive paths. His words were haunting, and I felt the depth of his pain. Tupac Shakur appeared before me, his expression filled with anguish as he spoke of the violence and rebellion he once glorified. I wanted to give people a voice, but I didn't realize I was also leading them down a dark path, he said, his voice heavy with regret. Not far from him was Biggie Smalls, who admitted how the pursuit of wealth and status blinded him to the damage his lyrics caused. Both of them begged for their stories to be shared, hoping others would learn from their mistakes. Another rapper, someone who had always been seen as larger than life, spoke about the emptiness he had felt despite all his success. He admitted that no amount of money, fame, or accolades had ever filled the void within him. He had used his music to project an image of power and invincibility, but deep down, he was searching for meaning. "We were so focused on building an empire here," he said, "that we forgot about what comes after this life." XXXTentacion, a younger artist whose music resonated deeply with his fans. He said, "I wanted to help people, to speak to their pain, but I let my own struggles drag me into darkness." His regret was palpable, as he admitted that he had mixed messages of hope with themes of despair, leaving listeners confused and spiritually vulnerable. "If only I had used my platform more responsibly," he added, shaking his head. His pain reflected the weight of unfulfilled potential and the consequences of neglecting his influence. As I continued to watch and listen, I felt an overwhelming sense of sorrow for them. They had been given immense talent, the ability to move people with their words and music, yet they had used it to promote messages that glorified sin. Many of them didn't realize the full extent of the damage they were causing until it was too late. They were leaders, influencers, and role models, but instead of guiding people toward hope and truth, they had led them toward destruction. The responsibility they bore was immense, and the weight of it was crushing. One thing that struck me was the sense of hopelessness in their eyes. They talked about how they had opportunities to change, moments when they felt the urge to do something different but ignored it. Some mentioned people in their lives who had tried to steer them in the right direction, but they dismissed those voices, thinking they had all the time in the world. It was heartbreaking to see them now, fully aware of the opportunities they had wasted. Their stories serve as a powerful reminder of how fleeting life is and how crucial it is to make the right choices while we still can. I also saw the impact their actions had on others. Their music had become anthems for millions, shaping attitudes and behaviors, especially among the younger generation. Many fans idolized their lifestyles, mimicking their actions without understanding the consequences. The rappers talked about how they wished they had used their influence to inspire positive change rather than glorify harmful behaviors. It was clear that they were not only suffering for their own choices, but also for the lives they had led astray. One of the most painful realizations for them was how their messages had distorted the truth. They spoke about how they had turned their backs on the values they once held, choosing instead to chase after worldly success. Their lyrics had celebrated materialism, objectified women, and normalized behaviors that were far from what they truly believed deep down. They admitted that they had done it all for the money and the fame, thinking it would bring them happiness. But now they saw how empty it all was. The regret in their voices was overwhelming. As I stood there, I couldn't help but think about the times I had listened to their music, not realizing the spiritual impact it was having on me. It made me question how much of our culture is shaped by these messages and how many people unknowingly internalize them. These rappers were not just suffering for their own sins, but also for the ripple effect their actions had on countless lives. It was a sobering realization that fame and influence come with immense responsibility. Their stories were a wake-up call for me, and I hope for anyone who hears this. One of the rappers said something that stayed with me. "We sold lies in exchange for crowns that turned to ash." He explained how they had spent their lives chasing awards, accolades, and validation from the world, all while losing sight of their souls. "We thought we were invincible, that nothing could touch us," he said, shaking his head. But the truth had caught up with them. As I turned, I saw Juice WRLD, another young artist who had left the world too soon. His voice was filled with sorrow as he recounted the glorification of drugs and escapism in his music. "I thought I was being real, but I was just normalizing destruction," he confessed. Juice WRLD admitted that his struggles with addiction had not only consumed him, but also inspired countless fans to follow the same path. His regret was overwhelming, as he realized how many lives he had unintentionally led astray. As they continued to speak, it became evident that many of them had moments of clarity during their lives. Some talked about growing up in faith-based homes, but turning away from their beliefs when success came knocking. "I thought I could come back to God later, but later never came," one rapper admitted. They had traded eternal peace for temporary pleasures, and now they were paying the ultimate price. Their stories made me reflect on the importance of staying grounded, no matter how successful one becomes. I asked one of them, "Did you ever think about the consequences of your actions?" His response was sobering. "We thought we were untouchable. We didn't think about consequences, just about staying at the top," he said. He went on to describe how the industry often glorifies rebellion, encouraging artists to push boundaries without considering the long-term effects. "It's a trap, and we fell right into it," he said, his voice heavy with regret. Their honesty was both heartbreaking and eye-opening. They also spoke about how the pressure to stay relevant often led them to compromise their values. "We were told to give the people what they wanted, even if it meant losing ourselves in the process," one rapper said. The industry had become their master, dictating their choices and steering them further away from the truth. They talked about how they felt trapped, unable to break free from the cycle of producing content that glorified sin. "We knew it was wrong, but we didn't see a way out," another added. As I listened, I realized how deeply they regretted not using their platforms for good. One of them said, "We had the world's attention, and we wasted it on things that didn't matter." They could have used their influence to inspire hope, promote love, and encourage positive change, but instead, they focused on personal gain. "We thought we were building legacies, but we were just building monuments to our own egos," he admitted. Their words were a powerful reminder of the importance of using one's gifts responsibly. One of the most striking moments was when a rapper said, "We were slaves to the industry, but we thought we were kings." He explained how they were constantly manipulated to produce content that sold, regardless of its impact on society. "We were puppets, and we didn't even realize it," he said, his voice filled with bitterness. The realization of how much they had been used only added to their torment. It was a sobering reminder of how the pursuit of fame can often come at a great cost. I couldn't shake the image of their faces, filled with anguish and regret, as they recounted their stories. They weren't just suffering for their own sins, but for the lives they had influenced and the culture they had helped shape. "We thought we were just entertainers, but we were leaders and we failed," one rapper said. Their stories left me with a deep sense of urgency to share what I had seen. It was clear that their experiences served as a warning for anyone who might be walking the same path. As they continued, they begged me to share their stories with the world. "People need to know the truth about where this path leads," one of them said. They hoped that their testimonies would serve as a wake-up call for others to change their ways before it's too late. "It's not too late for them," another added, his voice filled with desperation. Their words carried an urgency that I couldn't ignore, and I knew I had a responsibility to share their message. They also talked about how they wished they had listened to the warnings they received during their lives. "There were moments when people tried to guide us, but we ignored them," one rapper said. They admitted that pride and arrogance had blinded them to the truth. "We thought we knew better, but we were so wrong," another said. Their stories were a powerful reminder of the importance of humility and being open to guidance. One rapper said something that sent chills down my spine. "We thought we were leading the culture, but we were leading people straight to destruction." Their influence had been far greater than they realized, and they regretted the ways they had used it. "If only we had known the cost, we would have done things differently," he said. Nearby was Pop Smoke, his face filled with regret as he spoke about the culture of violence his music had perpetuated. "I wanted to be a voice for the streets, but I didn't understand the power of my words," he said. He admitted how the competitive and aggressive nature of the industry pushed him to embrace themes that ultimately hurt more than they helped. His plea was clear: tell them it's not worth it. Fame and money mean nothing when it leads you here. The weight of his words was undeniable, leaving me deeply moved. As I prepared to leave, they begged me not to forget what I had seen. "Please, tell people the truth," one of them said, his voice trembling with urgency. Finally, I saw Lil Peep, a rapper whose music often explored themes of sadness and self-destruction. He confessed, "I wanted to help people feel less alone, but I didn't realize I was leading them into my own struggles." His regret stemmed from how his music unintentionally normalized despair, rather than offering a way out. "If only I had known the truth, I could have shared something better," he said, tears streaming down his face. Their stories were heartbreaking, but they reinforced the urgency of the message I needed to share with the world. As I came back to my body, I was filled with a sense of urgency to share what I had witnessed. The pain and regret of those rappers were etched into my memory, serving as a powerful reminder of the consequences of our choices. Their stories were not just about their own mistakes, but also about the impact we all have on those around us. It was clear that fame, fortune, and success mean nothing if they come at the cost of your soul. Their stories left me with one undeniable truth: the path we choose in life determines our eternal destiny.